forward to getting into this one.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's I was just telling you like a minute ago. Um yeah, it's a weird time to be a Patriots fan right now. I know a lot of people are just like you said, like the words you used was like at each other's throats. And I agree. Like it's a really weird time. I I do think that winning will solve issues like that, and that's why they're, you know, coming to the surface right now because they have been losing a lot. But yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah. So last Sunday, Patriots lost to the Jags at. I mean, it seemed like pretty early into the game they lost. They just couldn't come back. Jaguars got out to um, a really solid lead at halftime, and Patriots just couldn't come back from it. They made a late fourth quarter push with a touchdown. KJ Osborne, Drake May led a 94-yard touchdown drive, but they couldn't get it done. Um, so I wanted to ask you, Carlos, what do you think? I'm going to flip flop in between defense and offense here. What do you think is the issue with the defense? I want to start with them first.
The defense, honestly, I know this might be like a cop-out answer to most people, but it's the injuries. I think that they just have guys that shouldn't necessarily be playing the roles that they're playing right now. And that's not because the coaching staff is forcing them to play those roles. It's because they have to play those roles due to the injuries. I just missing like Jabril Peppers, and you won't even consider that an injury. It's just off the field stuff as well. Jabril Peppers, you have Jawan Bentley out, you have Christian Barmore out, you have all these guys that those three guys in particular, and I'm talking about the run game when I speak about those guys, like that's a big void that they leave.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest issue in my opinion. I just think it's the guys that are playing in the roles that they're playing in right now shouldn't be playing those roles, and it's just because they've had to. It's just they've forced their hand in order. Like the injuries have completely derailed a lot of what the Patriots planned on doing with the defense. Because not to use the words of Bill Belichick, I don't necessarily agree with everything he said, but the majority of the players that they have did come back from last season's team, and we saw how good
Yeah.
that defense was. But one thing he failed to mention was that a lot of those guys are hurt. So I think that's a big factor in them not playing too well so far.
Yeah. And if I kind of I agree a little bit with Belichick in terms of if you have a strong run game, you're a tough team. You have a tough defensive line. You have a
Mhm.
tough um, second level with the linebacker unit. But if you're not, then you're not playing tough. Like what happens up front, it's really just it comes down to toughness. I feel like,
Mhm.
but I agree with you in terms of the injuries being a huge issue with the defensive struggles. But I think it's a combination of a bunch of things, like the injuries, like you mentioned, and then also just a lack of depth to accommodate
Yeah.
for those injuries. Like, well, taking a look at the linebacker unit, Jelani Tavai, he's a great second man to Juwan Bentley. However, he's really had some struggles filling in for Bentley. He's been asked to do a lot of things that he doesn't necessarily do super well, and he's kind of playing out of his element. And outside of him, there aren't really many guys that can help him out. I mean, Raekwon
Mhm.
McMillan, they tried him. He struggled with tackling. He would shoot open gaps like against the Jets. He'd shoot an open gap, and it looks like he's got Brees Hall tackled at the line of scrimmage, but then Brees Hall just breaks off for like 6, 7 yards or more. Um, and then I think it's also just the lack of presence, like the absence of Christian Barmore, that leaves um, like just him not being there. That really hurts the rest of the defensive line, and you just gotta have a big presence like him there to really help your guys out. And also with the secondary, Juwan Bentley being out and them struggling in pass coverage in the linebacker unit, that puts more stress on the defensive backs, which is which it kind of explains why they're having a tough time shutting down these receivers like they have in the past. And I think that's all. That's also just a huge issue with that group right now.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point in terms of depth. Like they weren't prepared for all these injuries, and I'm not saying like that's necessarily like their fault because some of these injuries and some of the stuff that's happened is kind of like I didn't expect them to be out for this long or for the whole season. But I mean that's just the game. I mean you have to prepare for it. So in a way, they it is their fault. Like it is the front office's fault, but it is a good point. Like they just weren't built for or to sustain injuries to their starting players. They just weren't ready for that. Their depth was not as good as we thought. I know a lot of people didn't think that it was good in the first place. Like for the linebacker unit in particular, like I thought they were set. Like if someone went down, I thought that they had enough depth, but that seems to be one of their biggest or one of the groups that's giving them the biggest issue right now. Um, and I guess that could be attributed to depth, or it could also be attributed to injury because they have like someone like Sione Takitaki, who was a big signing, that that injuries have kind of derailed his season so far. So it's a lot, like you said, a lot goes into it. But I do think, yeah, like I said, injuries and how you mentioned like depth that plays a major role in their lack of performance.
Yeah, and I know it wasn't an injury, and this situation could turn into a good one for the long term for the Patriots, but also trading away Matt Judon, that that pass rush group was a big question mark coming into this year, and it's really evident that they're struggling. I mean, you got Keon White, but opposing offenses, they're pushing him out of like Jelani Tavai out of his element. They're making him do things. Other offenses are making him do things that he's not great at and that he doesn't want to do. And then you look at Anthony Jennings, he's more of a run stopper than a pass rusher. He's still a great player. He's a great run stopper, but in terms of the pass rush, he's just not up there with what they've had in the past. And then like O'Shane Jimenez, he's out for the season. And then Josh Uche, he just hasn't really played well at all this year. So it's just a whole lot of different things. But I also wanted to ask you, how much of it do you think is coaching?
I do think honestly, like I haven't been able to like really voice my opinion on it, but I do think that DeMarcus Covington does have somewhat of a role to play in that in their lack of performance. Um, I know a lot of people were saying like, oh, of course, like it's Bill Belichick going to DeMarcus Covington. Like I understand that and I agree, but I do think that injuries play a big role in that. So that's why it's kind of like a weird in between that I can't really blame him too much, but at the same
Yeah,
time, some of the mistakes they are making are schematic issues. So it's like it both can be true at the same time. And with him in particular, with DeMarcus Covington in particular, I do think there is some blame to be placed on him. I think that some of their defensive strategies and, like I said, schemes just aren't making sense right now. And other teams are out coaching him in particular, or offensive
yeah,
coordinators are out coaching him in particular. So I think my one of my biggest grievances is that he doesn't put Christian Gonzalez, one on one with the opposing team's best receiver, and just leaves them there on an island. That's like one of my grievances. I know that's like such a minute thing that most people could be like, oh, just get over it. Like, like let him travel around the field, let Gonzo travel around the field. But that's like one thing that I'm just like, I feel like that's such an easy thing to see and just like implement into the defense and then work around that. But um, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a reason he's not doing that, but yeah, I do think that coaching does play a role.
yeah. My little pet peeve with the defense and just the overall decision making there. I mean, I can't stop talking about it, but just the linebacker unit dropping Jelani Tavai back into coverage, which he's just not great at. Like, stop doing it, please. Just put Taki Taki in there. Like that's what you brought him in for. That's
Yeah.
my little pet peeve. But yeah, I do think he deserves some of the blame, but I don't think it's super fair to heavily criticize him just yet. Similar to Gerard Mayo, they're both brand new coaches. They're still trying to figure it out. There's a lot of injuries going on, and I think it's just unfair to heavily criticize them right now. But moving over to the offensive side of the ball, Carlos, what did you see from them on Sunday?
So I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. I only watched up until halfway through the third quarter because I fell asleep because I had a 6 a.m. wait. I actually woke up at 5 a.m. just to watch the pregame stuff, and then I tried toughing it out. But I was able to watch like the film on the rest of the game. But watching it in real time, that it wasn't even necessarily that I don't honestly, this is the biggest thing that now that I'm thinking about it, this is like one of the weirdest aspects of their offense to me right now is that it looks better with Drake May, and they're like playing way better than they were to start the season,
Yeah.
but they're still not necessarily producing well enough to be like, oh, they're like a really good offense. And I'm not saying that's Drake May's fault. I'm just saying like I think people are more excited about the fact that it's Drake May behind center and that he's making these like flashy plays and like so I guess you could call them highlights. But at the same time, they still have lots of three and outs. Like they still have like a lot of miscues on offense. Like there's still a lot of mistakes happening on offense. So it's kind of like sure they're playing better than they were with Jacoby Brissett, but it's still not where it should be. And because of that, they're not able to score. And once again, I'm not blaming this on Drake May, so don't come at me for that. I understand that like maybe his receivers aren't good, the line isn't the best, but like technically everyone is playing better with him under center. Like the offensive line is performing better, the receivers are producing more, the tight ends are producing more. The running game is the thing that's been like they're just having trouble with for some reason. But besides that, it's like I would like to see them score more than 30 points now. I feel like that's like a benchmark. Like they cleared 20 points. Like let's push for 30 guys, you know what I mean? Like why can't they do that? And I know most people are going to point to the talent on the offense, but it's like I do think that there's a lot they can clean up on offense. It's not just like oh the defense is losing them the games. Like no, there's a lot they could clean up on offense as well.
Yeah, I do think it's more of a coaching issue right now and a coordinator issue right now. But I mean, like it's still it it's the offense and how it's running and the scheme. It's still quite a bit of how it was run under Jacoby Brissett. It's still operating quite a bit like it was under him. But the difference with Drake May in there, he's willing to see the field better and just take more risks and take more shots. And he's also just able to extend plays using his legs, and he's able to escape the pocket, which Jacoby Brissett really wasn't able to do a whole lot of, and he's just able to extend plays, and that's I think been the key difference with why the offense looks better. However, with the coaching and the decisions being made throughout the game as the game progresses, that's what's preventing them, I believe, from actually breaking 30 points, actually scoring more touchdowns and leading to more scoring opportunities. I mean, this is the Jaguars, they were the worst pass defense in the league in so many different statistics heading into this game. You open up with a great offensive drive, it was great in terms of how it was set up to progress on the opening drive. And then second drive, a little bit of the same thing, but you incorporate more of the run and more of the wide receiver screens and just stuff that doesn't work. And then after that, it's just run stuff that obviously does not work and has not worked all season long. And I get that. I get that coaches come into a week with a specific set amount of plays that they can call from. However, there needs to be a better decision making in the game plan than leading up to the games. Um, but it's just I think it comes down to a coaching issue and just how they're deciding to call the offense as the game goes on.
Just to ask you, I'm like interested to hear what you'd say. Um, when you say coaching, I know you like think it's coordinator issues mostly, but
Yeah,
do you think that coaching, like positional coaching, is also making an impact? Because I think back to like last year, and I know there's still some like minor instances of it, but nowhere near as much as last year when wide receivers would be running routes like it's like 10 yards to get the first down and they'd curl at 8. Like little issues or little details like that. I feel like they're no longer making that many issues. So I'm thinking about like Tyler Hughes, who's the wide receivers coach. Um, and then I think about like Taylor Embry, who's the running backs coach, like, is he coaching them wrong? Like, what is he part of the issue in terms of the running backs not producing? What do you think?
It's really hard to tell just with so many different coaching personnel bodies and how many coaches they have signed this year on the coaching staff. It's a lot more than in recent years. So it's really hard to kind of just pinpoint one positional coach out. But I do think it's a top down issue. Um, just with how they're getting these guys ready for the games, how they're preparing them, and just what they're asking them to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think that like it starts somewhere. Like someone's doing something wrong, and then like it's a trickle down effect. But the one thing I will say that's kind of like I don't want to be negative, and I know a lot of people are like calling for people's jobs right now. Like that's like the big topic. But if you had to take a guess, which yeah, you could. I don't want to say coordinators because I feel like that one's obvious. Which positional coaches do you see not returning next year, or who would you like most likely to not return? Whether that's firing or just saying like, "Hey, like I'm gonna go take a different job."
That's tough. Maybe one of the receiver coaches, or just one of the offensive assistants, but also maybe the running back coach. I don't think Scott Peters is gone with how the O
Mhm,
line has performed under injury. They've gotten better uh, recently, and they're making progress. And it's just really hard for them to do their job with
mhm.
so many different bodies kind of just rotating in and out. It's hard to build up chemistry, and I think chemistry is really a undermined aspect of what goes into good offensive line play. But that's probably what I would say.
Yeah, no, I kind of alluded to mine already. I do think Taylor Embry is the one that stands out to me just because the running backs haven't been doing too well, and they kind of will have to play like, if it's not Scott Peters getting the blame, they're kinda gonna have to blame a specific coach, and I think that he would be the next one up. Maybe it could be Alex Van Pelt too. I know I didn't say I said no coordinators, but I'm talking about, like, as far as placing blame. But yeah, I would say Taylor Embry comes to mind for me.
Um, but then, well, let's talk on the offensive end right now. How do you think that? What do you think they can do, or should do to improve right now? Because there's a lot of stuff going on off the field and off the field with what coaches are saying, what players are saying, and then obviously just watching what the product on the field too. Um, just what do you how do you think they can improve just from here on out?
So when you ask that, are you talking? I'll just give two different answers. I'll say for offense and defense. Um, for offense in particular, I just think that they need to trust Drake May more. And I know he's a rookie. I know he's only played 2 games, but like they just need to allow him to play his style. And you kind of said it earlier with Alex Van Pelt's play calling. They're kind of calling it the same way that they called it with Jacoby Brissett, but they just need to start getting more comfortable with letting Drake May be comfortable. Like they just need to let him take over and do what he can do in order to improve the offense. If he messes up, if he throws picks, so what? Like he's a rookie. I understand like people are gonna say like his mental game might get messed up, but it's like I'll always use the example of Peyton Manning throwing the most interceptions in the league his rookie year and then turning into Peyton Manning. Like it's not just like it's not gonna kill his career if he throws 15 picks this year. Um, but I also will say for the defense in particular, um, that one's just tough because like we talked about it earlier, it's just injuries, it's stuff off the field that I honestly don't know what they can do to fix it. And the only thing that comes to mind, and maybe this is a hot take, I don't know. I don't know if it's like controversial, but I think Gerard Mayo needs to take over the defense because he needs to kind of hold them more accountable in a way. And I'm not saying he doesn't do that because I don't see it behind closed doors, but he kind of got he literally blatantly got asked that today during his press conference. They said like, "Are you going to take over the defense or be more involved in it?" And he said like, "Oh, that's the Marcus Covington's job. Like I trust him and all this and that." I didn't like that answer because I wish he would say like, "Yes, I will be more involved," because clearly something's not working there. So that's the one fix I could think of for the defense in particular.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And on the offensive end, I already kind of alluded to what I think needs to be better, and I think primarily it's the game plan heading into the game, or every week, and just not doing the same predictable thing over and over again. That's just gonna get your offense shut down. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, that's my main thing. But I wanted to ask, do you think, like, from a coaching standpoint, do you think Gerard Mayo need what do you think other than what you just said Gerard Mayo needs to change?
What do you mean? Can you reword
Wait,
that question?
like other than what you just said about him being more involved with defense, do you think that he himself needs to change um, the way he's just operating things
I see what you mean.
during
Yeah,
the
no, I
and game
genuinely do.
managing?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely do. I do think he needs to change something. And like a lot of people right now, like I've been putting out a lot of videos and honestly some opinions too about Gerard Mayo because some people think that if you defend him, that means that you defend everything he does. And that's not true at all. Like there's stuff that he does that I do not agree with at all. And there's some of his coaching styles that I do not agree with at all. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt because he's a rookie head coach on like coaching an already bad roster and he's in one of the toughest like environments in the NFL. So it's like I can defend him but also disagree with him. So by saying that, the two things that really stand out to me that I don't like that he's been doing is one, the like I posted the video about it yesterday, like Ty Law saying like he needs to stop delegating and be more involved. He needs to
Yeah,
like get off the sideline and go talk to certain units, go see what's going on, like take over some aspects of the game when needed. And like this morning, he said like, "Oh, um, I already do talk to my staff. Like I have my headset on and I go through the channels talking to the coordinator. Like that's not what I mean, and that's not what Ty Law was saying. Um, it's like more so of like the physical, like move your body and go to a huddle, like go talk to people, like be more involved. And I do agree. Like someone mentioned it in my comments, like s- most of the time they show him on the cam on the yeah on the TV, like the broadcast cameras he's just standing there like looking confused. And I'm not saying he is confused. It's just like go somewhere else. Like why don't you go talk to people? Like talk to the players. Like do something other than just standing there and delegating. I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves about him right now. And then the second one is his kind of like minimizing of what players do off the field. And what I mean by that is like obviously right now a big topic is like players using social media to voice their grievances. We'll talk about like Jalen Polk and KJ Osborne in particular, and it's like him saying like, "Oh, it's their freedom of speech. Like they're allowed to do that." Like I would really like for him to just like what's the phrase like nip the rose in the bud or whatever. Like just
what?
in that.
What?
You've never heard that phrase? Anyways, um,
I'm not.
so so pretty much I just want him to like just cut it off right there. And instead of saying like, oh, it's let's just let them voice their opinion, like they have the right to, it's like, no, like refute it and like kind of I don't want to say call them out because we saw what calling them out in the media does, but um I'm saying more so like just put an end to it in that moment. Kind of say like I don't agree with what they're doing and I'll talk to them about it, rather than just saying like oh well they're allowed to. I just don't think that works. And I know he comes from like a leadership style of like and I don't want to say like oh he's the nice guy because people have said many stories about him holding people accountable, but it's just more so like you can't please everybody. And I don't think he and I not that he doesn't understand that, but he's trying really hard to please everybody. And when
Yeah,
I and I'm alluding to the players in particular, um, he's trying to make it too much of like, oh, like um, I'm not a hard ass, so let me just let them use social media how they want because I'm not going to tell them what to do. So I just don't think that works, and clearly it's not working. So I would say those two things. It's just him delegating way too much, and when I say way too much, it's all the time in a way. Um, and then him just not like holding players accountable in the media. And what I mean by that, I don't want to say the soft comment. I'm just saying like just like kind of putting an end to certain things that are issues at the moment.
Yeah, I th- I think he can be a little too talkative with the media, and sometimes like I
Yeah.
think sometimes he says too much, and I think that's a product of them trying to reestablish a relationship with the media after well, Bill Belichick was was gone, um, and I think I just think he needs to be a little media trained a little bit, just in terms of how he says things. Because I do believe that he like sometimes he thinks things and he just can't express it the way
Yeah, he
he
doesn't
fully
articulate it
wants
well.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he has the right idea and he has something he wants to say, but he just can't convey it properly. And I think that's also just something with the media and how people look at him right are looking at him right now as a head coach. I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, the phrase is "nip it in the bud." So it was "nip it in the bud."
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
anyways, just to go off of what you said though, um, I didn't want to talk about this. Um, and Andrew, oh, there you go. You froze for a second. I don't want to talk about it that much, but the soft comment bothered me just because if you genuinely listen to his quote, like I'm not saying read it. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from like posting quotes and stuff like that on Twitter is that people read quotes differently than how the videos and like the actual audio is. So when you
Yeah,
see like, oh, Gerard Mayo calls his team soft and in quotes, people take it as like, oh, like he called them soft. If you listen to the
yeah,
actual quote, he even says like we're a soft team all around, and that's because we couldn't run the ball, we couldn't stop the run, and because we couldn't cover kicks. Like that was the full quote, and people
mhm,
just took the soft comment and they read that soft comment and they ran with that story. And then he even had to kind of clarify it on Monday on WEI, saying like, I didn't mean they were soft. I meant that we're just not tough because we can't run the ball, we can't cover kicks, and we can't stop the run." Like he just reworded what he said. So I know what you mean by like he can't like articulate it well, and it's like tough for him to really voice his thoughts. But in that instance in particular, I don't necessarily see anything bad with what he said because if you listen to the full quote, he like sure he worded it wrong in a way or he could have worded it better, but it's just like little things like that that he's doing cause more of an issue throughout the team. Maybe not the team because the players clearly don't have an issue with it, as you can see from like the quotes they've given today. But like it just causes more issues on the outside and more noise for them to deal with and more negativity for them to deal with because he's not wording things correctly. And like you said, he's not media trained in a way. And I
yeah,
feel like by now he should be kind of figuring that out. And I kind of feel bad for him because if you watch the press conferences, you could tell he's like trying his best to like
mhm,
think about the question and think about what he's going to say. And there's a lot of times that he'll pause someone asking the next question just to clarify what he said beforehand. So
yeah.
it's a lot of that, and it just comes with him being a rookie head coach.
What the media will do to you sometimes.
Yeah,
They'll get you. But yeah, I I mean you even have guys like David Andrews on I think it was the Quick Snap pod today. He was
yeah,
saying how if he was with the team right now, then that would fire him up. That would make him want
mm,
to prove himself, and not in a bad way, saying like "screw you" to Gerard Mayo, like
yeah,
"screw you, I'm going to prove myself and show you that I'm tough, show you that I can do
mm,
this." And I think he might have said that he believes the guys in the locker room would also take it that way. I'm not entirely sure though. But like you got guys like you got his players defending him in that
yeah,
sense with the soft comment. And yeah, I do agree with you
mhm,
that the media kind of took that away and just ran with it.
yeah. I mean, with the team that like, with the team right now, and I said it like with the opening like intro, like with the team in the state that it's in right now, positivity isn't gonna get clicks. Positivity isn't gonna get people riled up. It's going to be negativity. It's going to be negative quotes. It's going to be fire Gerard Mayo. The players hate him. There's mutiny in the locker room. Like that stuff is going to get clicks. That stuff is going to get attention. And then people in it, they're going to think that the entire Patriots organization is in that same bubble.
Yeah.
But they're, like I said, they're in a bubble. Like that stuff might not even leak into the locker room or into the organization. So, and that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah. And before we move on to our next segment, which is just going to be Patriots and Jets preview, what we typically do. Anyone watching, if you guys have any questions or have any comments, just submit them and we'll answer them. But
Yeah,
yeah, so
really quick. I also want to say, like, if people disagree with us too, like, please comment. Like I genuinely enjoy, and I've been saying it over and over again. I enjoy the discourse with people that disagree with me because it just I'm able to hear the other person's side. So please feel free if you disagree with us too. It doesn't have to be, like I said, all positivity. um, you could comment too.
yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people are kind of at each other's throats right now, just online on social media. But we all got to remember, we're all fans of the same team. We're all hoping for the same outcome. Um, and I mean, I love getting in debates with you guys online. Just I love hearing other perspectives. It's really fun to me and intriguing. But yeah, so moving on to Patriots and Jets. Carlos, what do you think the Patriots need to do in order to win this game? I know that's kind of a long shot to say, but what would they need to do?
The main thing to me is rely on the passing game. I know the Jets have a very good secondary, but they're banged up right now. I don't know. We'll look at the health status of like Sauce Gardner, but I know their secondary is banged up right now. And just to tie it in, I see someone commented asking if Javon Baker is going to play this week with Polk possibly being out. One, I would lean towards Polk. Yes, I would lean towards him being out. And from the looks of it, not to backtrack to the social media thing, all that like the negativity, but KJ Osborne seemed to be healthy active or late healthy active, even though he was going to be a healthy inactive. Um, but he said by like Saturday he found out that he was going to play, and it seems like Javon Baker was going to play over him, and his illness and whatever he got over in London maybe affected that. So I do think Javon Baker is going to play this week. One, first of all, like I don't think he's going to make much of an impact. We'll see if we haven't seen him and Drake May on an NFL regular season field together. So that's something that we'll see how that goes. Maybe they do emphasize playing the young guys, and he is able to get a lot of opportunities. But I just think the passing game in particular, getting Kayshon Boutte more involved. He even said it that he told the media today that he had to ask for the 2 deep balls that he got this season, and that's kind of funny in a way, just because like one, you could look at it from the offensive coordinator's perspective that like he's not doing his job to get these guys involved. They have to ask for it, and on the other hand, you could look at it from the perspective of like, why is he telling the media that? Like, just you know what I mean? Like, just keep quiet about it. Um, but regardless, the receivers need to get more involved, get the ball in Pop Douglas's hands, get the ball in Kayshon Boutte's hand. Like he said, I haven't dropped a pass this season. So throw it to those guys. Get those guys involved. If Javon Baker's on the field, throw it to him. Get a couple deep shots. Do something just to ignite the offense and help the struggling run game too. Light in the box.
Yeah, I think Polk being out gives um, mostly gives more of an opportunity to Booty to get more involved, and also Kendrick Bourne to kind of fully come back from his injury. A little bit limited. I don't know if he was limited last week. I have not checked the snap count from that game, but it seemed like he was a little more involved. Maybe he starts, or maybe he's just a priority in the rotation on Sunday. But yeah, in terms of Baker, I do think that he starts. I agree with you, Carlos. Or not starts, that he plays. But I do think he'll be playing more special teams than offensive snaps. I'm hoping he gets offensive snaps. Maybe he will. I assume he'll get a couple. I mean, it's been long enough in the season where he should know how to run the right routes, and just
Yeah.
what AVP was talking about a few weeks ago. Um,
Yeah.
but I think he knows what to do at this point. I think he will see some offensive snaps. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see him out there with Drake May.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see if maybe they can connect on one of those deep passes that they tried to connect on during the preseason. I think that would, dude, that would spark so many like
That would be awesome.
not in I don't yeah I'm not saying it like in a bad way. I'm saying it like that would spark so much hope in people if like they see Javon Baker running down the field for like 50 yards and Drake May just sails it to him. That'd be amazing to see for sure.
He definitely has that ability to just. He might not get open, but he's just gonna climb over the dude and just head top him. Like he just
Yeah.
has a playmaking ability.
Yeah, if you watch like, I'm not comparing him by any means to this receiver, but if you watch like George Pickens with Russell Wilson now, um, Russell Wilson was just throwing the ball up to him, and I'm not saying it like he just chucked it and he didn't think about it beforehand. I'm just saying like he gave him so many like one-on-one opportunities of just throwing the ball in the air, giving him those 50-50 balls, and George Pickens just has glue on his hands. That guy's crazy. Um, so if Javon Baker and Drake May can do something that resembles that, um, obviously that'd be amazing to see. Because in that case, maybe receiver isn't one of those big needs in the offseason.
Yeah, that's what I keep trying to tell people with the receiver room. Like if Polk figures it out or Javon Baker comes in and he looks really good. Like maybe you offer. I mean, I think at this point, as it stands right now, it'll be hard to attract like top end free agents just based off your record. You're gonna have to sell them based off of Drake May's development and what he's shown this season so far and what he
And
will
money.
show later in the season. Yeah. Um, but maybe you throw a a good contract at T Higgins and you enter next season Pop Douglas with like Baker Polk if they step up and you got T Higgins like Kendrick
Mm,
Bourne back there like that's I mean I still think you draft a receiver at some point in this draft but like that's not a bad group at all. That's a pretty solid group. And you still got Booty too.
yeah.
So, just things change as the season goes on, and especially in terms of the draft narratives, and things change after free agency. After that's all
Mm.
said and done. But yeah, okay. So moving on, or going back to Pats and Jets. Um, what are some of the key matchups that you see in this game?
The I wouldn't say the main one, but one that just stands out to me is Ben Brown at center because the Jets got a lot of interior pressure when they played the Patriots the first time, and that was with David Andrews at center. And I'm not blaming all that pressure on him, but like those guys gave them problems, and that could a lot of it could be attributed to Quinn and Williams just getting a lot of attention and opening stuff up for other guys as well. But the Jets did give them issues with the pass rush. Surprise, surprise. Obviously, the offensive line didn't play that well. But I do think that I'll just group the whole offensive line together. It's just that they've been playing better with Drake May back there. And I'm not saying that they're playing better for him. It's because he can just do more with like a quicker or like a worse pocket, I guess, if that makes sense. Like he's just capable of doing more than Jacoby Brissett could do with the time that they gave him. So I do think that the offensive line is going to need to I don't want to say play the same way they played against the Jets the first time, but just slightly improve or do something to help Drake May out a little bit more than what they did with Jacoby Brissett the first time they played the Jets.
I'm gonna go on the defensive end. Really, just the cornerback matchups, and matching up with now the Jets have Devontae Adams, which
Mhm.
sucks. But I'm really interested to see if they put Gonzalez on Adams
Yeah,
and they have him shadow him a bit. Maybe they have him on Adams and they try and limit Garrett Wilson as best they can. I'd assume they play some typically more zone than man,
yeah,
just with both of them out there. I mean, they both can do damage, and you also got to worry about Brees Hall. Um, I'm not going to shut up about it, but that linebacker group, they really got to step up. They really got to close the open run gap. They got to figure it out, because if they don't figure it out and they don't strategize accordingly this Sunday, then Brees Hall is just going to have another monster game, and he's a great running back, and he's gonna beat you if you don't count for him.
Yeah, I think a lot's gonna ride on the secondary this game just because Tyler Conklin gave them a bunch of issues last game, and Alan Lazard gave them a lot of issues. And the thing is that it kind of scares me because they don't have someone like the Jets added somebody else to be an issue in the offense rather than like the Patriots adding someone else or the Jets losing someone. Um, it's just that now instead of Garrett Wilson being defended by Christian Gonzalez, it's probably going to be Garrett Wilson being defended by Jonathan Jones slash Marcus Jones. And now who's going to guard Alan Lazard on the outside? So it's kind of like you can't rely just on Gonzo, on Garrett Wilson. Even though Alan Lazard had a good game, you can't rely on like even Alex Austin is out. They had Alex Austin on Alan Lazard. Like you can't rely on him or on Alex Austin, Jonathan Jones, or Marcus Jones being able to stop Alan Lazard completely. And it's sad that we have to say that, but it's the truth. It's just like the state of where the defense is at right now. So it's like I do think it's going to be Gonzo the majority of the time on Devontae Adams, especially because of the size difference since they don't have taller corners. Um, I think he's going to be on him the majority of the time. I think it's going to be kind of like how they play Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They have Gonzo on Tyreek Hill most of the time, but every once in a while they'll put him on Jalen Waddle. So I think it's going to be like that with Devontae Adams. And then, like I said, it's going to be Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones switching off on Garrett Wilson. And we'll see. It's sad that I'm saying this, but I do think that Alan Lazard can pose an issue for them because they struggled defending him last game. And same thing with Tyler Conklin. Um, we'll see if Devontae Adams being there just opens up other stuff for other receivers and or just pass catchers in general. And maybe he's not much of a factor because of Gonzo. And but in the end, other people produce. So we'll see. It's like a trickle down effect. He's just going to command a lot of attention, but I do think the secondary has a big task ahead of them.
Yeah, and I think another thing on the defense that they really have to be wary of is containing Aaron Rodgers. He's got old legs, but week 3 he was still able to move out and extend plays and find guys moving outside of the pocket, and they just simply could not contain him, and that just really hurt them, I think, and
Yeah.
especially in the passing game, obviously, like there's only so much the corners can do and the defensive backs can do in coverage until one guy gets open. You got to
Yeah.
contain Aaron Rodgers. And we saw it immediately the week after first drive, Brock Purdy scrambles for 2 first downs, and you're just looking at him like, what are we doing? Like you got to position yourself correctly and on the defensive line, and you just got to get that straightened out, and you got to contain Aaron Rodgers. As simple as
Yeah.
that.
Maybe they luck out with the stuff that he's dealing with right now. I know the report came out this morning that his hamstring flared up after their this last week's game. So maybe they luck out with that. Maybe he is more confined to the pocket because he's not as mobile. Like you said, he has old legs, but he still had fresh legs in week 3. So maybe by now, like that starts catching up to him. His age starts catching up to him. But we'll see. Maybe they do luck out with that.
Maybe the old legs are starting to deteriorate at this point, but we'll see.
Possibly.
Um, now let's get to our favorite part. I can't wait to hear what we have for this. Game predictions. What is your final score prediction for this Sunday? And also,
Honestly,
like offensive and defensive MVP, if we can even have MVPs at this point.
honestly, I will say each week this gets harder and harder because I try to be positive. I try to be somewhat realistic. Last week I was too positive. Um, and
You're
now
all too
it's like,
positive.
yeah, but honestly, with the Jets in particular, it's such a odd like dynamic because it could
Yeah.
go one of a million ways with the Jets. So it's like part of me wants to say, you know what? I do see a world where they can pull off a win just because of how dysfunctional the Jets are right now. But considering the fact they have Devontae Adams now, They're getting Hassan Reddick back. Like they're adding pieces to improve. And I'm not saying they're like some world beater team, but like they're adding pieces to improve. And the Patriots have, in a way, lost pieces since the last game. So it's like I'm gonna go. I was thinking a lot about this, which is sad. I was thinking it's gonna be Jets 28, Patriots 14, and I could see a world where the Patriots score more, but I could also see a world where the Jets just absolutely like destroy them and like score over like 35 points because this defense has not given me hope, and the Jets have gotten somewhat healthier. Like I said, they've gotten better, and they have Brees Hall to deal with, and the run defense has been horrible. So maybe something changes. Maybe the soft comment ignites this team, and I'm completely wrong. Hopefully, I am, but that's where I'm at right now. And if we're going for offensive and defensive MVP, I'm gonna go offensive MVP as Pop Douglas. I think he has a bounce back game. I think he's gonna like Drake May's gonna rely a lot on quick passes, and he's just gonna be heavily involved. Defensive MVP, I'm just gonna. It's tough because they're giving up so many points, but I'll go with. You know what? I'll just put a prediction out. I think Gonzo has a bounce back game, and he like whoever he's guarding, whether it's Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams, he blankets them, and he has one of his like normal Gonzo games.
I think I saw some people freaking out about Gonzo, especially on that Brian Thomas Jr. deep ball.
Mm.
He couldn't have played that any better. That was just
Yeah, that
Brian
was
Thomas
insane.
Jr.
Not to like hype him up. That was a great play by him. It was just an even better catch.
There's not as any corner. There's not much else you can do there. He timed it perfectly. He timed the ball perfectly with when it ended up in Thomas's arms, and then he just pinned it with his fingers, lost it, and then pinned it again to his body. Like that was just insane. Like
Yeah.
I'm not blaming Gonzo for that at all. He caught up with him on the route. He was playing outside. He had his hips wide. Then he Bryce Humphries cut in on the post, and then Gonzo made up with speed, got there, and almost able to make the play, which was really impressive. Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of game predictions, as long as Drake May is the Patriots starting quarterback, they're going to have a chance to win these games, unless it's like the Texans or 49ers or one of those top tier teams. But as like against the Jets, Drake May is in there, they have a chance to win. But defense sucks. So I don't think they make the correct adjustments, and they haven't shown yet that they can bounce back with all these injuries. So I do think it's going to be Jets 30, and then Patriots. It's going to be an offensive shootout if they want to win. I got them with 21 points, so 21-30. Yeah, so in terms of offensive MVP, I'm going to go with a weird one. If he plays, I'm going to go with Vidarian Lowe. Just because he's been good. He's been a lot better on the left side, on the left edge, than he was last year on the right edge.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think a pivotal part or a crucial part of the offense is going to be to stop Quentin Williams. He's going to choose where he wants to line up. It's something like guys like Nick Bosa do. He's just going to choose where he wants to line up, and he's just going to wreak havoc as best as he can. But yeah, I got Vidarian Lowe. Drake May. Actually, I'm just Drake May. But the weird one's going to be Vidarian Lowe. Defense, I think I'm going to just have to steal yours and do the safe pick with Gonzo.
That's the safe one.
That's the safest and easiest and probably the best pick. So I'm going to just settle with Gonzo on that one. Yeah. But yeah, I think that is all that we have in store today. So again, just check if we got any comments. No. Okay. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Had a really great time talking Pats, especially in this heated time that we are in terms of the season for the Patriots. But you can find me at NestPGS on Twitter. You can find Carlos at Los Talks Pats on Twitter. We will let you guys know when we go live again next week. And until then, see you guys, and thank you.
Thank you guys.